The next part I'd like to share with you now. At that same meal, Jesus took some bread and he raised it up to heaven and he asked God the Father to bless the bread in a really special way that would change the bread from bread to his body. And then he took wine and he raised it up to heaven and he asked God to transform this wine, to change the wine from wine, plain wine, to something even more incredible, more special, called the blood of Christ. I'd like to share that part with you right now. This part of the gospel reading comes from a different gospel writer. His name is Matthew. Judas, one of Jesus' friends, had a bad idea. He knew that the leaders were angry with Jesus. He knew they wanted to catch Jesus. Now Judas wanted money more than anything. So he told the leaders that he would show them where Jesus was if they would pay him some money. They paid him 30 pieces of silver. One night, Jesus and his friends were eating supper together. "One of you is planning to do something bad to me," Jesus said. "Well, who is it?" asked John. Jesus said, "It is the one that I give bread to." Then he gave a piece of bread to Judas. "Go on," Jesus told him. "Do what you are planning to do." Judas got up and left. Only Judas and Jesus knew what Judas's bad idea was. Then Jesus gave thanks and broke some bread. He shared it with his friends. Next, he took a cup of wine and gave thanks. He shared this with his friends too. "Whenever you eat the bread and drink the wine, remember me," he said. Then Jesus said, "I will not be with you much longer. I have to leave, but do not worry. Do not be afraid. I will come back. You are my friends. Love each other as I love you." Does that sound familiar? Love each other as I love you. That sounds to me a lot like what's called the Great Commandment, the greatest commandment of all. Love one another. That's what Jesus calls us to do on this day, Holy Thursday, and every day, really. On this day, we remember Jesus and the very first Eucharist he shared with his friends. I mentioned to you that Holy Thursday is the very first day of the Triduum, the 3-day, really super holy celebration that the Catholic Church celebrates, when we celebrate this great gift of love. And he shows us this love today in the gifts of bread and wine that we as Catholics would believe becomes the body and blood of Jesus himself. Every time we go to Mass, we remember this story. Every time the priest acts on Jesus' behalf and asks God to bless the bread and the wine, Catholics believe that that bread and wine change completely into the body and blood of Jesus. We act out this story all the time. We are called to be like Jesus, to be with Jesus. He wants to be next to us. He wants to be near us. He wants to be inside of us. When people receive the Eucharist, that Holy Communion, the bread and the wine that we believe is the body and blood of Jesus, he enters us in a special, special way. A way that helps us become stronger and better people every time we receive. Now, I know we can't receive. We haven't received our first communion yet, and not all of us necessarily are Catholic. We can't even go to the churches right now. But we can remember this story. We can really think about this story and what it means and what Jesus is trying to say to us. kind of think he has two messages. This is what I'd like you guys to do today. I'd like you to spend just a few minutes, find a quiet place. Maybe it's the same quiet place you found earlier this week. Maybe it's a new one. But try to find a quiet place where you can just be alone, even just for a few minutes. And I want you to think about Jesus' example of love when he took the time to wash his friends' feet. And ask yourself, who can I help today? How can I help someone today? How can I love like Jesus? I also want you to think about the fact that Jesus uses bread and wine as illustrations of his body and blood, and that he uses that so that we can be consumed with him, that he will be a part of us. Think about a way you might invite Jesus to come into you today, into your heart, into your mind. How can you love like Jesus today? All right, my friends. Well, Jesus and I here are signing off once again. We'll see you tomorrow for Good Friday. But for now, goodbye from Beaverton. Take care.